What's up, everyone? My name's Andrew. I'm one of the TFs for this class, and I'm going to walk you through the pre-assignment for this week's section, which involves going to the old burying ground here in Cambridge and looking at some of the burials there and some of the headstones. Pretty cool. So what we're going to do in the pre-assignment is we're going to select our sample before we actually start the assignment. So if you go to the main page for the section, there'll be a hyperlink here for the Old Burial Ground web app. You're going to click on that. And it'll launch ArcGIS Online, where ArcGIS is one of the major softwares that archaeologists use when we're trying to deal with spatial data. So you'll see here there's a big map of the Old Burying Ground. And if I zoom out, you'll be able to see the rest of Harvard campus. So here's Harvard Yard. So it's right next door. And you'll see overlaid on top of the map are two different things. The first are these little pink rectangles. These represent individual burials at the graveyard. And you'll see how they're long, oblong shapes. That's because many of these burials have both a headstone, which is the fancy one that has an illustration on it and text, and then a footstone, which is a little baby gravestone, which is where the feet are. So the headstone's for the head, obviously, and the footstone's for the feet. And if I zoom in even more, you can see that each one of these burials is marked with two different labels. One's a number, and then one is a name. The number refers to the plot ID number, which was assigned by our department years ago to each individual burial that we know of. And then the other is the actual name that's on the headstone. This will make it a bit easier to find them when you're actually in the old burying ground. If I zoom out even more, you'll see the other thing that's on top of this map, which is this grid system with the numbers on it. So we decided to add this grid system on top of the old burying ground as a way to help you when you're deciding what you want to sample for your survey. If you remember on Wednesday's reading, there was an inset that was about sampling, where this is a very common problem in archaeology, where you have way too much data and you have to figure out a way to choose a subset of it that'll still be representative of the larger data set. So you could do this a number of ways. If you'd like, you could go through and you could just select random burials throughout the graveyard, and that would be a legitimate sampling strategy. But if you want to be a bit more systematic about it, you can use something like this grid to help you out. So I'm going to demonstrate that here. So up here, there's this select tool. If you click on the little drop-down menu, there's either select by rectangle or select by point. We'll start with select by rectangle here. And I am going to, I've decided to choose 3 different grids completely at random to sample for my project. So I can even open a random number generator if I wanted to, and I could plug in between 1 and 135, or I can just sort of stab my finger at the screen and choose whatever comes up. But I'm just going to choose for fun here. Let's do 36. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to drag my mouse over this grid. So I'm choosing 36 and I'm going to write that down because this is important for later. So 36, I'm sampling 36. I'm going to sample 57, holding down shift and dragging across, whoop, like that. And then I'm also going to sample 84. You want to try to sample between 30 and 40 individual headstones. More than that, it will be difficult to accomplish everything in the section. Less than that, it'll be too small to be a really good representative sample. So 30 to 40 is the sweet spot we're shooting for here. And you'll see now that the areas that I've selected have become highlighted in like a brilliant blue. My first step here is I'm actually going to take a photo of what I just did. So you'll see here that I can toggle the select tool by clicking it. If it turns dark green, it's toggled. And then whenever I click on the screen, it will select things. If I click it again and it goes light green, it's not on. I can actually just use my mouse to drag around. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so I can capture the full burying ground. And I'm going to click this little print button here. Boop. And I'm going to choose for the layout this one, letter ANSI A landscape. I'll make it a JPEG and I'm going to call it My Cool Survey Area Smiley Face. Then I click print and it's going to make the image. Boop, 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 boop. Here it is. Ta-da! There's the title, and there's my survey area. So this is all selected. So I would save this and save it for later because this map is part of your assignment. So the map will help you figure out where you're supposed to go to survey. So once I've done that, then I actually want to export the data from that I've selected from my map, and I'm going to put it into Excel. And the way I'm going to do that is with everything still selected, I'm going to click this little arrow button down here. This will pop up, and you'll see that there are 3 items in this table. There is an ID, which is the plot ID. There's a surname and a forename, which is the names on each burial. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this drop-down menu for options over here and click Show Selected Records. Boop. So you see that these are also highlighted in this brilliant blue. That represents everything that I've selected here on the screen. And you'll see that of the 698 features, I've selected 35. So I'm right in that sweet spot for where we want to be for our project. So now that I have all this selected, I go to Options, Export Selected to CSV. I'm going to click it. Boop. Yes, so this is a comma separated value file. This is what is read by Excel. I press OK, and it's downloaded. Woohoo! Let's open it up. Here it is. So you'll see that in this Excel document, I have 3 columns. There's the plot ID, there's the surname, and the forename. So all of this data is now imported into my Excel. Hooray. The last thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to take our imported data and we're going to put it into the Excel worksheet we're going to use for this assignment. So I am going to go back to the main page for this assignment, and I'm going to go, it'll say additionally download this Excel sheet. I'm going to download the Excel sheet. Bonk. It's this Seriation spreadsheet. I download it. I'm going to open it up. And here we are. This is the sheet that we're going to be using for the assignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy what I took from the spatial data, my sample area. I'm going to copy everything, not including the top layer, which is just the header. Copy, switch over to the other window. I'm going to paste it in. First enable editing. And I'm going to paste it in. Boop. Okay, that's fine. Yay. Okay, here we go. So now we have our plot ID, we have our surname, our forename, and we have all these blank entries in our Excel document. And what these are where you're going to fill in data when you're surveying in the field. So let's pretend that I have my laptop out, I'm running around in the old burying ground, and I'm recording the data from the headstones. Let's say that James Littlehale died in 1840, and his headstone was a death's head. Sweet. And then whereas David Nichols died in 1730, and his style was a winged cherub. And finally, Eliza Torrey died in, let's say, 1760, and also had a winged cherub. So you see how these are drop downs. So you don't, as opposed to having to type in every time, you can just click the little drop down, and it will choose you can choose one of the options, which is a little bit easier. Same with the material. So you'll also be recording the material that the headstone is constructed out of. Click the drop down, you can just click whatever it's made of, white marble, granite, blah, 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 whatever. Let's say it's made of slate, sure. And what you'll notice is, so once I put in the year that the person died and the style of their grave, these other tabs down here at the bottom will start to populate. So if I go to table, you'll see that this table is beginning to populate, and the battleship curve is also beginning to populate as well. Pretty sweet. So that's I think all you need to know for the pre-assignment. Good luck. Happy surveying. Oh, I should show you before I forget another way to choose your samples as well. So I can clear my earlier selection. And if I want, as opposed to using the grid, or as opposed to using rectangles, I can say, you know what? I want to select every headstone that's along the edge of our grid. That's an option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from selecting by rectangle to selecting by point, and then I'll click it so it's activated, so it's this dark green. And I want to get the ones that are along the edges. So this one, for example, I would shift click on it. There it is. I can get this one, shift click, this one, shift click, and so on. So now I can go over here and I can say, oh, okay, I want to get this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and so on. So as opposed to selecting by these sort of grids, you can select individually, and you can really do whatever you want. Where I could really go crazy and just sort of close my eyes and just collect ones at random like this. That's one option, but I would warn against that when it comes to actually being in the graveyard. You're going to struggle to finish the assignment because you'll have to run around and hunt all of these individual headstones that are sort of scattered around. You'll definitely save some time if you select within our grid system, where you'll be able to bang out all of the headstones in one area pretty fast, as opposed to scrambling around trying to find individual ones. But it'd be really cool. I mean, I think that if you want to put the time in, it would be fun to see, how sort of the selections that are done in areas versus how they're done sort of more randomly across the burial ground, like what kind of differences there'll be there. Plus, you'll see more of the burial ground, so that's fun too. Sweet. Okay, I think that's pretty much all we need to do here. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope it wasn't too confusing, and see you all in section. I can't wait.